Good morning, guys. I am recording this at 3:16 a.m. like a crazy person. But I couldn't sleep and I was just sitting there in bed and I thought, no, I need to get up. And then anyways, here we are. It is the day of the final Pluto return. Okay. And so this is something that I've been talking about for well over a year now. And it all wraps up today astrologically. So I guess I should just pull up some charts and start talking about it. Okay. This is the Pluto return. This is today at 10:03 a.m. Eastern time. In This is running from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but um, it'll be basically the same from Washington D.C. because they're in the same time zone. But this is what it's all about, baby. Let's go back to America's actual birthday on July 4th, 1776. What's happened is every time that anything is born, every time anything is created, the map of the stars at that moment of inception, that map is an indicator or like a mirror of the energy of that thing, whatever it is. So my wedding anniversary is coming up this week, and uh, so I was looking at my wedding chart, but like your wedding has its moment of birth, and a country has its moment of birth. And of course, babies have their moment of birth. And we run your star chart from the moment that you take your first breath. And then after your chart is generated, every single time these things go back to where they were in the chart, anytime these planets go back to where they were that moment you took your first breath, they trigger, they go off. And you can see how it shows up in a person's real life. Um, but it depends person to person, because how your map looks depends person to person too, so it's a really individual situation. But this happens on a personal level, where when you have a Mars return, for example, typically it's marked by physical injury. You usually injure yourself within, moments of your true Mars return. And sure enough, for me, I was even like watching for this the last time I had a Mars return. I slammed my foot in the car door as I got out of the car. I was like, I'm going to be super safe today. It's my Mars return. I'm not going to hurt myself, but I totally did. But people tend to injure themselves on the date of their Mars return. Venus returns have to do with love and relationships and money. Jupiter returns also have to do with money and with growth and expansion and travel, that kind of thing. But all of us have all sorts of returns all the time. And if you knew what you were experiencing in the context of your star chart, then it would all, like, you would see very clearly how it all plays out. And most people don't do that because they don't know what they're talking about. But here's the thing: Venus is on an 18-month cycle, Mars is on a 2.5-year cycle, Pluto is on a 244-year cycle. So this is the first time that we're all dealing with the Pluto return for the United States. None of us will survive to see our own Pluto returns. So you deal with Pluto returns on a national level, sorry. So this is Pluto going back to 27 degrees and 33 minutes of Capricorn, which is where it was on July 4th, 1776 at 5:10 p.m., the first signing of the Declaration of Independence. And so here we've had the past 10 months where we've had this window open where Pluto hit 27 degrees and 33 minutes of Capricorn, and then it went retrograde and hit it again in July. So it went first in February, then in July, and now it's today. It's going to hit that today at 10 a.m. in Eastern time. And while it was whacking, that window of 3 has given us this chance to really evaluate. To me, I feel like it's like the final window, okay, of time where we got to kind of prove, are we a Christian nation or not, which goes back to the 400th anniversary of the signing of the Mayflower Compact, where the founders of America swore that this would be a Christian nation. And then, of course, going back to 1776, right? Are we living in alignment with the covenants that our founding fathers made in 1776, right? I mean, this was during the Revolutionary War. We're looking at the Pluto return of blood covenants. That's what we're talking about. This is the blood covenant. People literally died. They shed their blood to create this covenant of freedom. And on a national level, are we living up to that covenant? And to me, I feel like it's pretty clear that no, we're not. Like, we're not really a Christian nation anymore. And we have a lot of big problems on a national level. And I had somebody in my Facebook group comment that she thought that things wouldn't be that bad, things aren't going to be that bad because individuals are starting to wake up. But the thing is that, yes, individuals are starting to wake up, but this is not about the individual. This is about the group, this is about the nation. And that is kind of the whole problem, I guess, is that on an individual level, we can be waking up and getting our act together, but on a national level, if we're not, it's a problem. And so yesterday I went live in my Facebook group, Intuitive Healing with Ali Duzette. You should go hang out there if you aren't in there already. But yesterday I talked about covenants and how in the scriptures, covenants are typically made with like one person, and then those covenants extend to all of their descendants, basically, or like the people that they rule over. It's like a covenant made with one leader that trickles down and impacts everybody. And so an example of this would be like the Davidic covenant, where God covenants with David, but it affects everybody that David rules and all of his descendants. Or the Abrahamic covenant, where God covenants with Abraham, and then all of his descendants are impacted by that. And I think this is the same kind of thing where I don't know who the one individual is, or like if it might be like the oligarchy of whoever's in charge of America at the time. Like, but I think what is in play, and again, I don't know, I'm just talking, it's 3 a.m, but I think what's in play is that whoever is at the kind of like the top of the governmental, I was just listening to Messiah. I listened to Messiah a lot, but by Handel's Messiah, you know, and like the government shall be upon his shoulder, which of course is from Isaiah. But that line just came into my mind. Basically, whoever's got the government on their shoulder right now, whoever that is, if that's one person, if that's many people, those are the people that are responsible for the outcome of this Pluto return, in my opinion. And yes, individuals, like, we are getting our act together. You know, hopefully you did your meditations, right? We've been doing a lot of healing work to prepare ourselves, and like repentance and like realigning our hearts with God on a personal level. And that's great. And it's necessary. If we're going to get through this, it is necessary, because if you're not familiar with the Pluto return, I've done a lot of videos about it, but we're looking at 12 years of basically societal collapse. That's pretty much what happens. Pluto comes back to where it started from and then triggers this collapse. And it collapses the things that are dead. It collapses the things that need to change. But what in our society is dead? Like, what needs to change? Well, funny you should mention. I mean, like, can you think of maybe one or two or 10 or 20 things that need to change? Because I sure can, like, just off the top of my head, you know? When we look at our society, we can see that our society bears the marks of deep disease. Like, we have a diseased society on a physical, personal, like our bodies are diseased and our spirits are diseased, and you can see it everywhere that you look. And yes, there's like a lot of good too, like us, like we're so great, everything like that. But also, we're not so great, or else we'd all be like really healthy and really happy all the time, right? And we can all see very clearly how society is already undergoing a collapse in a lot of different ways. And I mean, just we're undergoing a demographic collapse. We're going to see a population collapse because people aren't replacing themselves and haven't been for a very long time. We're looking at some economic crashes probably in the very near future. Pluto is exiting Capricorn in March, and usually within 16 weeks on either end of a Pluto transit like that, you see a big collapse, like monetarily speaking, and The last time Pluto did this was fall of 2008, right? Within 4 weeks of the housing market crash. And so here we are again. It's right around the corner. It's happening in March. And I mean, geez, I don't know. I could just talk about all of our societal problems forever, but you know them. You're aware of them. You see them in your daily life. You see how um, our culture is changing so fast and not in a good way. You know, I was reading a thing a year ago or maybe 2 years ago about how social media had made it so that the the societal changes that used to take 20 years are now happening in 6 months. That was like 2 years ago. That was like before TikTok. Okay. Right now, our society is going through such rapid shifts so quickly. It is just, I mean, it is literally out of control, but it's heading towards disaster because societies cannot keep up with demographic collapse. They just can't, you know. Like just think of it this way. I mean, just think of like sheer military size. Like if we don't have enough young men who are qualified to be in the military, like that's, it might not matter when things are peaceful, but as soon as things become less peaceful, it will super matter. And then everything is going to have a lot of problems, you know? But anyway, here we are, the Pluto return. It's happening today. And so that kind of is going to seal up that window. And then we're looking at 12 years of collapse. And will that happen tomorrow? Will it happen today? I don't feel like I can say yes to that. I mean, when I look, so I sat down with a Middle Eastern studies expert and interviewed her about this issue on another video some months ago. And we looked at how the Pluto return played out in ancient Rome and other ancient cultures. And we looked at it, I've looked at it in the context of Great Britain and Great Britain's Pluto returns. And I feel like it's a time of heightened chaos and heightened, I mean, death and rebirth cycles. That's what it's all about. But I don't know that on a personal level, every minute is traumatic, if that makes sense. You know, I think it can be possible that things could stay kind of normal for some time before it becomes abundantly clear that things are really changing and at quite a faster pace than we're used to. So so I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens, of course. But today is the day that the window closes. So let's go back. I am not sure if I even have this chart saved. So let me just take a quick look and see. I wasn't planning to look at it, but let's go up to the top. 20, I want 2020. And so I might not have it saved. Okay, let's just share the screen. I'll just write it up fresh. Okay. So one thing to understand about the Pluto return is that it all really was set into motion on January the 12th of 2020. And I can't remember the exact time that it happened, but let's do Washington, D.C. I'm just going to generate this chart so that you can see it. Oops. Cancel Washington, D.C. There we go. Okay. Yeah, here we go. I set it to 11:11 because it literally happened. It was like 11:15 or like 11:12 or something. But basically that day, you can see all of this is so close. The Sun, Saturn, Pluto, and Mercury all aligned at 22 degrees of Capricorn, and so did Ceres, which I don't have displayed right now. I read more, let's see, Ceres, there we go. There she is. Okay, so you see this massive stellium right here in Capricorn. And so astrologers really had their eyes on this in 2020 because this moment when everything aligned at 22 degrees of Capricorn, people assumed, astrologers assumed that this was the prelude to the Pluto return. Okay, so they were looking at it and saying, whatever's happening in 2020, this is like the little happy buildup to whatever's going on with the Pluto return. So I had my eyes on this. I've told this story before, but I was like waiting with bated breath on January the 12th and nothing happened. But, you know, as astrologers, like we keep our eyes on it. And I was expecting to see a situation that would involve um, death and rebirth. Oh no, my computer is about to die. Ah, pause, pause, pause. Crisis averted. Okay. Um, so going back to this, when I was looking at this, this is what we're looking at. The sun is going to be our national sense of identity. And in Capricorn, all of this is going to have to deal with the economy, the workplace, hierarchical structures, and how basically the order of operations of the earth, of like everything, like society. Okay. How does society run? So, right here, we were looking at our national and global identity, because of course this affects the entire planet, the global identity that's wrapped up in working, money, earning, hierarchical structures, the structures of society. Ceres deals with seasons, and it can deal with self-care and nurturing. It can also deal with massive trauma, and separation, like unwanted separation. The story of Ceres, of course, is the story of Persephone, right? Ceres is her mother, Demeter, and she's the goddess of the harvest and the seasons. And her daughter Persephone is so beautiful, playing with her mom. And then Hades comes and kidnaps her and drags her to the underworld. And the mom is so depressed, but she negotiates with Hades and gets her daughter back. But it's kind of like it can deal when I see prominent Ceres in women's charts in particular, I 100% of the time have seen severe motherhood trauma, and also a very seasonal mindset. And so what I mean by this is two people that I know with Ceres out of bounds, which is like an extreme presentation of Ceres, decorate for like literally every month of the year. And so like very seasonal oriented. But also have had like very traumatic motherhood experiences involving death and horror and just every horrible thing you can imagine. Okay. Saturn deals with consequences, and Pluto deals with death, and Mercury deals with communication. And so, in this context, I was expecting some kind of something that was going to disrupt the economy, um, going to make us focus probably on health stuff because a big focus on death. Series deals with um, again like seasons and also self-care and like nurturing. And so, were people going to be sick? Was it going to cause a lot of deaths? I don't know. With that Mercury there next to Pluto and Saturn, I mean, it's exact all of it. With the Mercury there, exact all of it. I was thinking we're going to see some real propaganda, like whatever we hear on the news is not going to be close to accurate. and and so this was kind of the setup for 2020, but then nothing happened, right? But as I'm talking about this, you can clearly see how it all played out just a few months later, right? Just okay, January 12th, February 12th, March 12th, right? Like 2 months after that, uh here we are, and the world is shutting down, right? There's a collapse of the hierarchical structures that run society, uh, massive shifts with the economy, big focuses on death, tons of propaganda, and you can't trust anything that you read. A big obsession with self-care and trying to make sure other people are taking care of themselves, however we feel like they should be taking care of themselves. And so this chart right here was just the happy prelude. And so I bring it up because here we have had this window, this 10-month window from February of 2022 until today, where we've had to revisit these questions from 1776, from 1620. And I say we, but really it's not just about us. Like it's not about you, the individual. And so I'll just answer this because people say, well, what if my birthday is on the Pluto return? Am I going to have Pluto return energy? No, because like no and yes, but basically no, because your solar return, your birthday, is based on you. And the Pluto return is based on the nation. It's like a totally different thing. Okay, just like I'm trying to think of another example, but um, I don't know. I mean, it's just the difference between being a person and being a country. Like you're not the country. I'm sorry, you're just a person. So like so yes, you're going to have the same chart today. Like if you were born on December 28th, you're going to have a solar return chart that looks a lot like this, and that will impact your year. But it's going to be a personal chart. It's going to be framed in the context of your birth chart. And this chart for America's birthday Pluto return, this chart is going to be framed in the context of America's birth chart. Okay, which is, we'll just double charts. Double. Okay, here we go. So America's birthday. Okay, the Pluto return is on the inside, and um, America's birth chart is on the outside. And so when we're talking about the Pluto return, we're kind of talking about this double chart, not just the little single chart that I always show. We're talking about that chart in the context of this chart. Okay, so that's why your own birthday, if your birthday's today, happy birthday to you. Very good, very exciting. But you don't need to worry about carrying Pluto return energy. It's not the same thing. It's just not the same thing. So, um, so here we go. This is the chart that's going to be kind of the marker for what things look like for the next 12 years. As we watch Pluto trim away what is dead in society and allow room for new birth, what are we going to see? What is it going to look like? What kind of hints can we get from this chart? Well, let's take a look. So the sun, this in this return is in the 11th house of groups of people. Okay, so big focus on all of the people. Okay, and the 11th house also governs unexpected events. It also governs revolution. Okay, this is the house that's governed by Aquarius, and this is a rising Aquarius chart. So this is a very revolution oriented placement to have the sun in the house of revolution. The rising is the sign of revolution, and then the north node is conjunct the planet of revolution. That's Uranus down here. Okay, sorry, I was like, oh my gosh, I misread the chart. No, I did not. Okay, I got it right. I'm so good at. Okay, great. But there's a lot of indicators for significant shifting in unexpected and possibly cataclysmic ways. Uranus, Aquarius, the 11th house, they're known for cataclysm, catastrophe, earthquakes, volcanoes. When you want to see what's, I don't know, when you're looking at people's charts for like disasters, that's what you look for. You look for Uranus, you look for Aquarius, you look for the 11th house. And of course, Uranus, Aquarius, the 11th house, they also govern good things too. They govern your friendships, they govern your interactions with the world at large, and the way that you take your inner goals and dreams and make them reality in the larger world. Like it governs some really good stuff, but also it governs some less great stuff. I mean, here's the thing, everything is good when we realize that everything happens for our good, right? Like God has made this planet so that everything that happens for our own good. And so this looks like a chart that is indicating revolution, whatever that means. And this also, I'll say all of those things, Uranus, Aquarius, the 11th house, they also govern technology. And so we could be looking at some really big revolutions in technology, which I know we are anyway, because Pluto's entering Aquarius in March. And Aquarius governs technology, Pluto governs death and also rebirth. And here we are on the cusp of a massive artificial intelligence revolution. We all know it. Maybe. Do you know it? Do you know that? We are. We are. I just had a big long talk about this with several friends yesterday, and about what one friend's using artificial intelligence to help write a book. I have another friend using artificial intelligence to generate images for a different book. Like artificial intelligence, and maybe you've seen on Facebook people posting images of themselves generated by artificial intelligence. we're going to be entering the era of artificial intelligence. Are we prepared for that? It's happening now. It's happening right this minute. It is officially going to seriously happen in March. You know, when Pluto enters Aquarius, we have a really interesting thing coming up because Pluto will only be in Aquarius for I think 6 months. It might be 8 months. I think it transits into Aquarius in March and it exits in November of 2023. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to double check it, but because Pluto's going to go retrograde again and hit Capricorn again. So we're actually, in my opinion, looking at two economic crashes next year of big proportion in Marchish, like in the couple of weeks surrounding March 16th, March 23rd. And then again, whenever Pluto goes back into Capricorn, and then again in 2024 when it goes back into Aquarius. And then we'll be in Aquarius for 20 years, but we've got some big things shaking up. Okay, back to this chart. So big shifts with technology. Now here's the Pluto that we're dealing with. Pluto is conjunct both Mercury and Venus. Venus deals with money and relationships. Mercury deals with travel and commerce and trading and monetary exchange. Did I mention communication? Like email. And when I look at this in the 12th house with Saturn there, basically the big point of all of this right here is we're looking at massive shifts economically with how we run business, how money functions. And I really believe it will be in a very concrete way as far as like we all know they're trying to phase out cash and make everything electronic so they can just turn off your access to all of your money at the click of a button, you know? This looks to me like the sign for that. And this can also be an indicator of big shifts when it comes to our relationships with each other, which is also notable because in just a few months, this nodal axis is going to shift from Scorpio and Taurus to Aries and Libra. And when it does that, what the message of that is moving away from one-on-one relationships and our comfort zone relationships and towards the energy of every man for himself. So that's coming up, I think, in June. And I need to double check it all, but I don't know. It's 3:45 a.m. I didn't plan to make this right now. It just is happening. So here we go. So that is something to keep an eye out on. Now, this stellium is important. Is it a true stellium? I'm like math, brain work. It is not, but it is still interesting. Jupiter at 0 degrees of Aries is interesting. Jupiter blows up and expands everything that it touches, and at 0 degrees of Aries, Aries is the warrior energy. It is a go-getter energy. It's very proactive. It's an action-taking energy, so it doesn't have to be negative. Like warriors are good. We need them. We need fighters. We need soldiers. But also it can be bad, as you can imagine. What this is just saying is that the entire nation is going to be primed to massively expand the energy of 0 degrees Aries. It's a rebirth, right? 0 degrees of Aries is the astrological new year. And here we have Jupiter. Jupiter, by the way, is the king of the planets. It's Zeus, right? And I mean, in a Christian perspective, that's the representation of basically God. And so here we have the hand of God at 0 degrees of Aries. I think it's God presiding over this rebirth. But how will this rebirth have to happen? Well, probably in an Aries way. Aries and Mars, they're the god of war, right? That like in mythological terms. So will this be literal bloodshed or not? That's something that we'll just find out in the next 12 years. But we definitely have to hold space for that symbolic representation, of course. Maybe it will just be symbolic, but this is in the house of the physical body. And so when I see that, here's this message of this house. Do you see how large it is in comparison to, say, this house? This house is tiny. This house is big. This is the house of our physical bodies as a nation, and then also this is going to affect the entire planet, because whatever happens in America affects everybody. That's how it is right now. And so this house, the physical body having the hand of God presiding over a death and rebirth, a rebirth at 00 degrees in Aries, that looks like death of physical bodies to me. I'm just going to say it. That's what it looks like to me. Um, right here, we have the moon and Neptune conjunct in Pisces. And so that is going to massively expand the spiritual receptivity of the people. But that's not necessarily a good thing. I mean, like, it can be a good thing, but I'll just put it this way. Like, we have God and the angels, and we also have the adversary and like demons. And this just means that everybody basically on the whole planet is going to be having an expanded connection with the spiritual beings or entities or energies that their souls are ready to listen to. I hope that makes sense. If you are good, then this will be very, very good. And if you are bad, you will be horrid. Do you know that rhyme? My mom always used to say it to me. There once was a girl who had a little curl right in the middle of her forehead. And when she was good, she was very, very good. And when she was bad, she was horrid. And that's kind of the situation that we've got going on right here. For the people that are good, they will be very, very good. And the people that are bad will be horrid. And that is because everybody's going to be primed to be listening to have that greater spiritual receptivity to whatever spirits they're open to listening to. So, oh boy. So let's go back over here, because this is probably the last thing I want to cover in this chart. I'm just kind of double checking. But this is Saturn in Aquarius at 22 degrees. Interesting that 22 is coming back again, when that other chart from 2020 was all about everything converging at 22 degrees of Capricorn. But this is the thing that makes me a little nervous, is this Saturn at 22 degrees and the rising sign at 23 degrees. The rising sign gives you the flavor of the next 12 years. It's Aquarius, it's technology, it's revolution, it's connections with groups of people, it's connecting with tribes for a humanitarian purpose. Aquarius is like very humanitarian. And I'll mention that I was talking to a friend about the Pluto return and about the role of Aquarius and all this. And she said, because Aquarius, you think it's a water sign because it has the word aqua in it, like Aquarius, and Aquarius is called the water bearer, but it's actually an air sign. It's an air sign, and it's an air person holding a jug of water, and it's this mental container for emotion. Okay, air is all brain and mental, and water is all emotions in the chart. The four elements are represented in the chart. But she said she really felt that Aquarius was the woman at the well. What an interesting concept. And just today, I got an astrological calendar, which is very fun, but I don't recommend it unless you are really familiar with astrological glyphs, because you won't get what the calendar is saying. But it had the picture of Aquarius was a woman with this pitcher of water. And I thought, oh, this does look like the woman at the well. What an interesting archetypal link that we may be looking at here. But I'll just say Saturn deals with karma and consequences. And this is calling to us, right? We're just about to enter this age of reckoning of all of our consequences. What are the consequences that we as a larger whole, as an entire nation, what are the consequences that we as a nation have to come to terms with? That is what this Pluto return is all about. The blood and sins of our generations. Okay, everything that has been ugly from the past 244 years, that it's getting called home. The chickens are coming home to roost. That is what that is. And there's a lot of people that have a lot of strong feelings about the different kinds of things that we might all have to answer for. And so I'm thinking of, calls for slavery reparations. Um, that's like obviously a really big one. Um, a lot of people talk about, of course, abortion, right? Millions of babies aborted and having to pay for that. Um, and I feel like that's kind of, those two things are like the tip of the iceberg. I think that on both sides of the political aisle, there's people that can see, different areas of the world that need to, like different areas of society that we need to fix, right? And and then there's even more than most people are aware of, in my opinion. I feel like there's all sorts of weird problems that we've got going on that nobody talks about. But but we have to understand that this how this is going to play out. First off, everything is in God's hands. So God is going to be the one that is sorting out the retribution, I guess, or like the karmic whatever of what is going to happen. That's one thought. Okay, second thought here is that when Saturn calls your consequences back to you, it's really it's kind of a vibrational process. And by that I mean it's less about the specific things, like you stole a thing from the Walmart when you were 5, and so now you're 29, it's your Saturn return, and now you're gonna Walmart will steal from you. No, it's not like that. It's more like the energies of the stuff that you've done in the past that you haven't resolved, like the vibration of your soul calls back to itself magnetically the other things that match it. So if you have stolen, for example, from our little Walmart example, it's the problem is less about the stealing and more about what has happened to your soul because of that action. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to think of another example of what this could be, like how to explain it. Okay, let's think about like the digestive system. We'll see if this analogy works out. I haven't thought of it yet. Okay. But so like say I'll use a personal example. I like only ate Doritos when I was pregnant with my first kid. So like say you only eat Doritos for a whole year and nothing else basically. And then you have a bunch of health problems later on down the road, right? Um, is the health problems, like, is that God punishing you for your past, or is it because you like ate a bunch of Doritos and now you have to pay the consequences? Now, when here's the thing, like by the time you see your consequences, those Doritos are long digested. They've been there, done that, they're gone, like they're out of your system. But the real problem isn't that you ate the Doritos. The real problem is that your system, leached the nutrients that it needed to function. When we eat toxic food, it's not just that we're eating empty calories that are it, we're eating stuff that depletes our body. It makes our bodies harder to function because of that fake food that we eat, so it's not about the food, it's that our own bodies have been depleted, you know? And so just like that, it's not necessarily about the stealing, it's about the self-inflicted damage to your spirit that happened because of that choice. And then later on, when your consequences come back to you, it's not like this punishment. It's not like you stole, therefore you must be punished. It's more like you stole. And when you did that, it ripped apart part of your spirit. Spirits can't remain healthy when they are when they're making choices like that. Just like your body can't remain healthy when you only eat Doritos. It's just not possible. I'm sorry, like it's just not possible. Even though we have all these healing techniques, you can't steal and be spiritually healthy, and you can't You can't eat Doritos all day and be physically healthy. You just cannot do that. It's just it violates the laws of the universe. And so when those consequences come in, it's not about punishment. It's more of just about um, consequences. You know, it's just the natural consequence. And then the trick with Saturn is that it takes 29 years to orbit. So by the time your consequences show up, you've you might not even remember all the things that built up and snowballed to that point where you're at. But now here you are, and all of your consequences come in, and so there you are. But going back to America, what we're looking at is having America's consequences called in, and it's less about us getting punished on a personal, on like a national level for like specific things. Although I think that could be part of it. I mean, like, why not? I'm not going to say that's not going to happen or that it doesn't happen, but I'm also additionally saying that it's less about, or shall we say, it is equally about the. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so we have the problems that we engage in, and then we have um, the vibration that it's created, right? So, like abortion, murdering 60 million babies. Okay, like that is a problem, and maybe we need to be punished for that very specifically. But additionally, the energy of our nation is the energy of a nation that murders babies. That is the problem. And when that energy gets called home, like what does it look like if you are a murderer and like then the energy that you put out in the world boomerangs back to you. Does that make sense? Not to say that everybody that gets an abortion is a murderer, but just I had that word on my mind and it's 3 a.m. um but just to say, like, when energy comes out, Saturn boomerangs it back to us. And there's a scriptural precedent for that as well. What, as you sow, so shall you reap. And that is the energy of Saturn. This that's what this message is telling us, is that as you have sown, so shall you reap. And like, this is reaping time, guys. Reaping time starts today. It starts at 10:03 a.m. Eastern time. Will we see a collapse at 10:03 a.m. Eastern time? I don't personally think so. I think we're looking at some bigger events that will trickle in just like they did in 2020. I think 2020 is probably a pretty good indicator of how this will play out, as far as we have this big astrological event. Then kind of crickets. But is it because in the major news, we weren't reading a whole lot about COVID, but I was um, in the various like alternative news sources that I read. And so I kind of had my eye on this. And like people were aware of these little things that were happening. And as we were leading up to March with the big shutdowns and everything, there were little hints and clues. And, we're shutting down the border. We're, you know, trying to educate people. And um, I don't know, we had our eyes on Italy. We had our eyes in China. We're kind of keeping an eye on these different things. And you could see the hints of it begin. And so my guess is that today might be a quiet day. Tomorrow might be a quiet day. And by the time we hit mid-January, we're going to be seeing some hints about what is actually going to be happening. And I'm guessing that March could be a big time of the year. We'll just have to see, because March is when Pluto enters Aquarius, of course. And March, um, what else is happening in March? My brain just died. I can't remember, but Pluto's entering Aquarius. We have our next nodal shift to the Libra Aries axis coming up. And oh my gosh, brain. I had a really insightful thought that I cannot remember. But anyway, coming back to this March thing. Oh, it's the next eclipse. The next eclipse portal is happening in April. Okay, so this March-April window, I'm guessing that we're going to see something of some kind, and it's all just going to be snowballing. Okay, by 12 years from now, like if we all just get out our phones and set a little alarm to go off, in 2034, I think we'll all see that things have changed really significantly in a very fast amount of time by 2034. But we have 12 years for that to unfold. And so, what do we do in the meantime? Okay, well, in the meantime, this is what I'm doing. These are my thoughts about it. So I did I did a Facebook Live yesterday about it, but I've just been feeling this big feeling to get my house in order. And that's why I couldn't sleep tonight. My baby woke up. First off, I've had insomnia for most of my life, so I'm used to running on like a couple hours of sleep, like maybe 2 or 4 hours of sleep, but it's not healthy, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute because it all comes together. But anyway, don't be too worried about me because I run on no sleep. That's like my default setting. Um but this morning I woke up with my baby, and then I was like thinking about all of the house projects that I want to get done. And then I was feeling just irritated and stressed about them. And anyway, then I decided to get all the way up, and here we are. We're having this video right now. Um, and anyway, the point is, we need to get our houses in order, literally and figuratively. Like for me, it has felt so literal. I have felt like I have to fix my house, the physical abode of my being, my domicile. I have to fix the house. And it has felt so urgent and pressing that basically every other responsibility in my life has fallen by the wayside while I like try to urgently handle this house. So I posted about this in my group, and a lot of people commented that they're kind of feeling the same thing, that they have been trying to remodel, they're trying to fix things, they're trying to clean things. They're just feeling this big feeling, it's time to clean my house. At the same time, your body is a temple. Your body is a house. You are a house, okay? And you are the house of your spirit. Your body is the house of your spirit. What house cleaning do you need to do in your spirit to prepare for this? And so this morning, as I was like sitting in bed and thinking about, do I get up? Do I just like lay here in bed? I was thinking about how my experience with my physical house is a really interesting mirror and trigger for the house of my spirit. My physical body, as I'm doing these physical body tasks to fix my house, and the emotions that it brings up, because everything that you have to fix and change, there's always emotions involved. You might not be tuned into them, but as you get your house in order, I invite you to ask the questions of like, why did I have to get this in order? So, for example, um, I'm not repainting because of like big damage. I just hate the color of my cabinets. But like, if I had to repaint because my kid had defaced my cabinets, that would be like this whole different thing, right? And so, why, like, what is the problem? What is the nature of the problem that has led to the need for change? And then, like, dig into that, because even the tiny things that you think are not symbolic often actually are symbolic. And the way that you handle cleaning house right now is going to be very symbolic as well. I just think that you're going to find a lot of answers to your life as you start cleaning your room, cleaning your house, cleaning your soul. Okay. And of course, if you're not aware of it, go to allydoesatclasses.com and get your free offerings right now. Because it's, I don't know, that's like my big passion, is like cleaning up your soul. We just got to clean up our soul so that we can be ready for this Pluto return. Because when there is nothing, when things collapse, the only thing that we'll be able to count on is our own faith and our own body's ability to generate whatever we need in the moment that we need it. And I do believe it is a physical body thing. I believe that the spirit and the body have shared anatomy, that your spirit has a liver, your spirit has a kidney, your spirit has a thyroid. And that when you have a thyroid problem, you don't just have a thyroid problem, your spirit has a thyroid problem. Why is your spirit having a thyroid problem? And when we experience the physical manifestations of faith, it's not just because our spirit did a thing, it's because our body did a thing too. I just really feel that the spirit and body are so connected. And that's why we came to earth, to get bodies, because they are machines that we use for healing. They're machines for faith. They are machines that take what is spiritual and make it physical. Wow, maybe I'll cry about that. Wow, our bodies are machines that take the spiritual things and make them physical, right? And I'm thinking of all the times I haven't composed in so long, but I used to compose quite a bit, and I would hear music in my mind, and then I could sit down at the piano and just play it, and I could take out my pen and I could write it down on my musician's notepad, you know? And what a joy. You can do that with your body. You know, we can take ideas and we can make them into physical reality, and we can take our faith and we can generate real, true results from our faith. And I'm thinking of that famous story of the pioneer. I'm gonna do it wrong, but anyway, they were starving in the snow and they had no food, but like they had faith, and there were meat pies in the snow with no footprints. You know, we can generate meat pies in the snow. We can do that. You can do that. But your spirit needs to have the faith and your body needs to have the faith. Like, what do you need to do to bring your body and your spirit into alignment? Is your body healthy enough? Is your spirit healthy enough? Our bodies and spirits are reflections of each other, not always 100%, of course. Like, I'm thinking of, I don't know, like my brother was born disabled and all of this stuff. Like, I get it. You know, not every, anyway. But I would say overwhelmingly, our physical body problems have spiritual messages for us. They can be really good indicators of things that we need to heal in our own spirits. When you tune into your own physical body right now, what messages does it have for you about what you need to heal in your spirit? What spiritual healing can you do that's going to turn around and bless your physical body? So that is a great transition for the next thing that I felt was really important to talk about, which is so annoying. I hate it and so ironic. You're going to laugh when you hear it. Ugh. But as I've been preparing for 2023 and looking forward to the new year, New Year's Eve is around the corner, New Year's Day. Um, I like made all these plans of all this stuff that I wanted to do this year. And I've like posted about it in my Facebook group, all these classes I wanted to do. And then I was praying about it, which I should have done first. But I felt like God gave me a commandment for this year. And the commandment is to sleep. That's why it's ironic. It's hilarious. It's 4:09 a.m. and I'm recording this because I couldn't sleep. But I sat there in bed and I was like, God, you commanded me to sleep and I like can't sleep. Like my heart was just like pounding and I just like could not get it together. And I was like, I have to get up. I just have to be awake. And then I sat and like did some yoga. And anyway, then I thought, oh, maybe I just need to like make this video now, start the day off with this video. So here we are. But so I'll blame God for that one. Uh, that's why we're up at this early hour making this video, even though I was told to sleep. But actually, now that I'm talking about that, that seems really significant as well. But I was commanded to sleep. And we need to talk about sleep for a minute. You and me both, guys, because sleep is really important. And recently I had watched a video with Glenn Beck where he talked about how he went for years with terrible insomnia and he was so productive. And then he stopped having insomnia, or well, what happened was he crashed. He had a massive crash. His health just bombed because you can't live your whole life on no sleep. And so that's what I've been like feeling about is that I need to sleep more because I've lived most of my life on almost no sleep. And now I just feel like it's the crunch time for sleep. And it's already been a sacrifice. I felt like this commandment came through maybe 2 weeks ago. And it has felt like a sacrifice because I love being productive. I love getting stuff done. It's really hard for me to say, to prioritize my sleep above other things because sleep has always felt like the thing that like, yeah, you can do without it. You can function without it. Um, but I don't think you really can. You pay a real price when you try. And I've been doing that for many years now. And I feel like God has just been saying, like, it's time to seriously sleep. So then it's also kind of funny that today I felt like now I'm not sleeping because I'm going to be doing this video, you know? And so I guess it just goes to show that God can tell you, you know, not to murder, and then he can tell Nephi to go murder Laban. I don't know. Like commandments change and you just listen, but I think that this video notwithstanding, my commandment is to sleep. This next year, what I felt like I was specifically told in specific words was whenever sleep is an option, you must take that option, you know? And so whenever there is the ability, like whenever the opportunity presents itself, I need to be using it for sleep. And as I've been stressing out about this, I mean, I have been really stressing out about this because I feel like my divine edict has been to aim for 10 hours a day, which I've never gotten in my whole life. I never have. And maybe as a baby, but I doubt it. I don't think I was a good sleeper. I mean, like I think I've just never been a good sleeper. And so as I'm like trying to reprogram my body to sleep, I'm thinking 10 hours a day, that's like half the day. That's almost half of a day. Like how am I going to get anything done if I'm asleep for half of the day? Like if I'm asleep for that many hours, I mean, going from like 4 hours of sleep to 10 hours of sleep, that's a lot of time that I don't have available to do all the things that I want to do. But I feel like it's really important. And I mention it because I think it might be important for you too. As I've been really pondering this, I just have felt that I think we will have a little bit of a lull before things get too crazy with the Pluto return. And it might be a several year lull. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know. You can't just like predict this. You can't like pull dates out of a hat. You can see how the clock is ticking, right? We're looking at heaven's clocks. That's what we're doing. And we can see that, it's Pluto return time. But when you go to a restaurant and it's noon and it's lunchtime and you place your order, is your order going to come out at 12:15 or 12:30 or 12:45? Or are they going to take a really long time, bring it out at an hour and a half later? You just don't know. And so the order's in, it's Pluto return time, but will that show up in January? Will it show up in March? Will we start really seeing things next year, the next year? I don't know. But I think whenever things start happening, it will be good for all of us to be as well rested as we can be. And so I'm just inviting you to pray about this for yourself. Do you need to be prioritizing sleep? Do you need to seriously prioritize this? The other thing I feel like I need to prioritize is exercise, but I also feel like I can't prioritize it until I have built up enough sleep in my system, if that makes any sense. So I feel like that's like the next commandment that I'll add in after I have fulfilled the first one sufficiently to be able to add in the second one. What was the other thing that I was going to mention? The commandment to sleep, the commandment to exercise, and the third one is attaching to your children or to your family, just healing your attachment issues, basically. And so I've been reading the book Hold On to Your Kids by Gordon Neufeld and Gabor Mate, is that his name? And it's been really good. I'm not done with it. I'm sure many of you have read it. A lot of people have recommended it to me over the years, and I just finally have sat down with it this week and started reading it, and it has blown my mind. And I thought, oh, like now I understand. Now I get it. Now I get, like, I look back on my own childhood and I like get what happened. And now I'm looking at my own kids who are growing up and saying, like, oh, this is happening. Like, this is happening. I've been really productive and I've done a lot of good work with my business and stuff like that and with this YouTube channel, but it's come at a price. It's come at a price because to do it, I can't be emotionally present all the time for my kids. And I say all the time, but really what it has looked like is I'm not very emotionally present ever because my brain is just like so obsessed with all of these different things that I love to learn about and think about and create. And so even though I'm there with them physically, my brain has just not been fully on board with being present. And I just have never really figured out how to do that. But that book is very helpful in giving me ideas and stuff, and I've been practicing with it. But I've been thinking, wow, I think my other top priority is like sleep, exercise, and actually like seriously focusing on attaching with my children and building that strong family bond, which I think is really important, especially before that Libra to Aries axis switch that we're heading into, every man for himself. That is the theme of what we're heading into. And we can opt out of it. We can opt out of it. But if you don't want to be by yourself, you have to attach. You have to be attached to humans that care about you and that you care about them. We have to do it. And geez, that's a fodder for another video, but the point is, I just want to get it on your radar for now. How are you going to prioritize the relationships in your life? How are you going to do that? To me, I feel like these are my top three things. And now I'm sitting here like, how am I going to do anything? Like, how am I going to do anything that I had planned for the year? Because all my plans were like sessions and classes and the videos that I want to make about the different stuff that's going on, I felt like the only time I could make these videos is at like 3 in the morning. And sure enough, now here it is. It's like 3 in the morning. So here I am making the video. But how will I do all of these things? And I don't know. And I'm not sure I'll be able to do them. So I don't know. We might not be able to hang out so much, guys. We'll have to see. But but I think those are words of wisdom for probably more people than just me. A call to turn off our devices and just go to sleep. And a call to turn off our devices and look our children in the eye and smile at them and ask them how they're doing and interact with them. And so anyway, there we go. Those are the three things that I feel like I've been told to do to prepare for whatever is happening next. And again, hopefully, whatever happens next, we all win $1 million and have a great life. But whatever happens, uh, you know, it's going to depend person to person. And whatever happens to us individually will depend on our own alignment with the divine and with what is good. The more that we can bring ourselves into alignment with what is good, the more easily good will flow to us when it really counts. So let's get our bodies in order, guys. Let's get our houses in order. Let's get our souls in order. Let's get our minds in order. And let's keep the commandments, and let's just keep an eye on what everything is happening and how it's all going to play out. And I'll do my best to keep you informed as I go, but also I know that this is a season that I need to be prioritizing my own body health for whatever's going to come next. So I don't know. We'll just have to see. Also, side note, Mercury's going retrograde today. Let's just double check that chart. Is Mercury retrograde in this chart? It's not. This is amazing. Oh, Mercury is just right on the brink of going retrograde in this chart, and it will go retrograde right after the Pluto return. But the Pluto return itself has Mercury direct, so that seems like a good thing to me. But perhaps if I can find the time, we'll talk more about Mercury later. But okay, thanks for watching, guys. Love you, love you. Bye.